Hello everybody, this is Belinda from Belinda's Book Nook, and today we're going to talk about Caribbean books. Yes, it's June, it's my birthday month, and I'm going to keep saying that for the whole month because I celebrate the whole month. But it is also Caribbean Heritage Month, and also there is a read-along challenge that was created by Karen at Run Right Reads and Peta from Comfy Cozy Up. I'll leave their channels below. That is CaribAthon, and that runs from the 9th through the 14th. I read the books the whole month long because you know that that's not going to work for me because I read too slow. But I had wanted to talk to you about some of the books that I think that I'm going to try to read this time. I know last year I bought a lot of books and I read some books, but I didn't read all of the books. So I went through some of those and tried to figure out what I was going to read. And let's see if we can do this. All right, so okay. So the first book, this one I've had for a long time, and I just don't know why I get books and I'm excited about them, and then I don't read them, and I guess everybody does it, but it just drives me crazy sometimes, especially when I do know that I want to read them and I'm probably going to enjoy them. And by the way, the heat is still on here. It is so hot. I can't take it. I turned off the air so that you can hear me better without any sounds. So I might start getting sweaty, so I'm going to go as fast as I can. This first one is called Stories from Blue Latitudes, Caribbean Women Writers at Home and Abroad, and it's edited by Elizabeth Nunez and Jennifer Sparrow. And the cover is so cute on this one. I love it. It's like, looks like a watercolor picture on it. And this one is 26 Caribbean writers, and they're all short stories. So I think my approach that I'm going to do with this is just read. I'm not going to say I'm going to read this whole book. I'm going to read some stories from this and talk about them. If I do end up reading the whole thing, which probably is unlikely because I will have some other books that I want to read, then I will talk about the book in its entirety. But I'll just read. My goal is this year, instead of saying I'm definitely going to do it, I'm just going to read a couple of the stories in here and call that good. So there's that. So this one's called Stories from Blue Latitudes. I was also trying to show you some books that that might not be shown around. There's a lot of books. We tend to kind of get excited about all the new releases, forget about older backlist books. And so I was trying to show you some books that are different. Although there is one that was a new release last year, so you might have heard of it. But this one I don't hear much people talk about it, and I think it'd be really great. It's got some great people that I do know and I am familiar with already, and it'll have some new authors that I can start to look and enjoy their books. So the next one is, it's really this book. The next one is called The Man Who Turned Both Cheeks, and it's by Gillian Royce. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. And it's a little bit chunky for me because usually when I'm reading multiple books, I try, to avoid the chunk because I'm still working my phobia out. But this is the second in a 4-book series, which I own all of them. When I found out about this author, I just ordered them all, and I didn't even know if I was going to like them. But last year, you might have remembered, I read this one, and this one was called The Goat Woman of Largo Bay, and that's the first book in the series. And so this one follows a gentleman, I believe he's from the United States, that owns a bar in a hotel in Jamaica. And over time, with different storms, the hotel portion of the property has gotten separated. Waters flooded and risen. And so now the part where the hotel is kind of considered almost like a little separate island from the bar. And it's kind of run down. He hasn't invested into recapturing and figuring out how to do that. So he doesn't rent it out to anybody. But one day they discover this woman on the bar, on the property where the hotel is. And they try to figure out what's going on and who she is, how she got there, and everything else. The book was good. It covered a little bit of the politics and the political strife in Jamaica. I consider these kind of be, at least this first one, to be kind of like a cozy read. And Shad is the Jamaican bartender who is kind of the lead, also in helping to figure out and solve these cases. So he's going to continue on into this. Oops, it's upside down. Into the second book. Look at the big difference in the size too. So I want to also read this one and see, where the evolution of this author's writing has gone to, because I think that sometimes authors come out with the first book and it's fantastic, and then the second book you're like, whoa, were they rushed, whatever, the pressure hit them, you never know. And some people start out with books that are good and then they get better. And I think this was good, so I'm hoping that this is going to get better, because I have 2 more after this to read from this series. But it's a really gorgeous cover. I love it. It makes me think of summer. And so I'm excited to get back into this one. So that's the next book I'm going to try to read. Now, this next one was a new release last year, and I pre-ordered it. And I pre-ordered it just on the description because I thought it would fit into what I had hoped, and I haven't really been being very good about it, my family history series, where I talk about like generational stories, or trying to really figure out how to classify the books that I wanted to talk about in that, because I've been doing my own family research and kind of tie it into each other. So this one I had pre-ordered, and this one you've probably seen a lot on BookTube, and this one's called These Ghosts Are Family by Maisie Card. And this is the cover. It's got a cool cover on it. And this one I'm going to read it because I'm not very good at describing, but I think it's really good, well written here. It says, this is her debut novel. It says, after giving up his fight against arthritis that now leaves him wheelchair bound, Stanford Solomon decides that time has come to reveal his 35-year-old secret. In the early 1970s, a man named Abel Paisley left Jamaica for England in search of fortune. Not long after Abel's arrival in London, his childhood friend, whom he had been working alongside on a cargo ship, dies tragically. Abel Paisley makes a choice. He decides to steal his friend Stanford's identity and fake his own death, consequently forsaking the young family he left behind in Jamaica. More than 30 years later, Irene Paisley immigrates from Jamaica to Florida, and as she travels across the country to New York, struggling to make ends meet as a home health aide, she finds herself specially requested by a new client, Stanford Solomon. After Stanford reveals his identity as the father she long thought dead, Irene's life is never the same. This masterful woman, it goes on and on, but isn't that sound so good? Oh my God, it sounds so dramatic. And, you just kind of want to see what goes into why this person would want to take somebody else's identity like that. A person just doesn't just do that, willy-nilly. They definitely, that's an old expression. People don't just do that. They I must have some reason. And so I want to see what that story is that would lead him to think that it was a good idea to leave his family and to take up this other identity. So this one is called These Ghosts Are Family by Maisie Card. It was all over, and I also just hate reading when things are all over. So I'm kind of glad now, although probably people are picking this up that didn't read it as well. I'm glad to get a chance to try to dive into this one. Now, the last book that I have, and I only put a few because, I know it's realistic and we're already into June. I need to be able to be realistic of what I can read. This last one, I'm telling you right now, as soon as I turn off the camera, I'm going to go and start reading it. I have been waiting to read this one, and I forgot to bring the first one, didn't I? I did. This is the second book. I'm going to call it in the series because the first one was called Pow, and it's Carrie Young. This is the second one called Gloria Pow. I don't know if you've watched my video. I love the book. I love the book. I remember reading it at to pick up my son, and I was like deep in the book, and then he would come to the window and it would scare me because I was so engrossed. I really liked Pow. Was one of my favorites that year, and so I couldn't wait to read this one, but I did hold off and said I was going to wait until this year to read it. So I have 3 books in what I consider to be the series, and the way that it is you could read them in different orders, but it's suggested, I think, that you read Pow first, because Pow is he's Chinese family of origin. His family goes to Jamaica, and they build their wealth and money, but around like corrupt activities, like making businesses kind of like making the businesses pay for their protection so that their businesses can be okay. And so he doesn't really want to do this, but he ends up falling in and having to do that to make a living. He really wants to kind of do something on the straight and narrow. So he kind of follows him, and it talks about the Chinese presence in Jamaica. It does an excellent job about talking about the history during this time period. And then he talks about, he ends up marrying someone, and it was kind of almost like an arranged marriage. He marries this Chinese woman, and it's not really a love relationship so much so. It's more of a convenience relationship. But he had, prior to that, a relationship with this woman, Gloria. And Gloria is a Black Jamaican woman who is working, I'll say, as a woman of the night to try to make ends meet. And he was one of her customers, and then ended up, they fell in love, and they got together. And when he gets married, she obviously isn't happy about it, but doesn't have any say in that. And so this book follows Gloria's perspective. So we get to go back and find more of her backstory. You hear about her in the other book, but you don't. And then the other book, what is the other person's name? I'm trying to think of who the woman is that Pow marries. Kay? I think it's Kay, or Faye or Kay, Faye. The third book will come from her perspective. So collectively, all three of them you're going to see it through different perspectives. And I'm sure this is going to be steeped with more history. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited to read this. I know that Peta from Comfy Cozy Up read them out of order. She read this one first, and then she read Pow, but she said this one was so good. So I'm so excited because I loved Pow, and I'm just ready for this one. So this is going to be my other book that I'm definitely going to be reading for this month. What are you guys reading? Let me know. I have other books. I have a lot of other books, but I know that I'm not going to be able to read more than maybe 2 or 3 in the time that we have left. But I wanted to get that up to you guys so you can at least see some books in case you haven't selected a book for this month to read. Like I said, this one, if you get to Pow, read. I did a giveaway last year, actually. Pow was so good, and this one just sounds good. You're just kind of curious of what is going to happen. This one, we'll see. I'm hopeful that this will continue and get better from the first one, and then the last one is, I'm just going to pace myself and read some of these short stories, maybe in the evening. And if I finish it, I finish it. If I don't, I'll finish it throughout the rest of the summer. But I'm just going to read a couple from here, which is great because I'll get to hopefully read some new authors to me. So these are my books that I'm looking to read for Caribbean Heritage and CaribAthon and Read Caribbean Month and Birthday Month. What are you reading? Let me know, because I want to hear. I definitely want to hear what you guys are reading. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.